What if I told you Sony makes more money from Beyoncé than from TVs? That they didn't just film Spider-Man, they actually own him, and that one of the biggest anime platforms on Earth runs on their quiet power. Welcome to the story of how a humble electronics company built a media empire, one calculated acquisition at a time. Before we dive in, if you're fascinated by the hidden strategies behind the biggest entertainment players in the world, hit subscribe and ring the bell. You won't want to miss any of our videos. In 1988, Sony stunned the industry by writing a $2 billion check to acquire CBS Records. Back then, CBS owned the catalogs of Michael Jackson, Bruce Springsteen, and Barbra Streisand. That acquisition instantly catapulted Sony into the big three of global music power, along with Universal and Warner. It wasn't just a name change on a studio door. Overnight, Sony Music controlled the rights to some of the most lucrative recordings in history. But unlike their flashy rivals, Sony kept a low profile. They weren't signing viral stars and tweeting their triumphs. They were quietly acquiring golden catalogs behind the scenes and negotiating rights and licensing deals that would pay dividends for decades. When you stream Billie Jean or download Born in the USA, Sony pockets a cut. When Beyoncé's tours pack stadiums, Sony's share of publishing royalties can run into the tens of millions each year. And because music is inherently low overhead, with no factories or physical inventory to hold, the margins stay fat long after the initial investment. In the 1990s, Sony Music continued to expand. They launched sublabels, partnered with regional distributors, and cemented their relationships with up-and-coming artists. By the time streaming took off in the 2010s, Sony had a half-ready catalog that was primed for licensing across Spotify, Apple Music, and every ad-supported service under the sun. From sync deals and commercials to placement in blockbuster movies, Sony had turned a back catalog acquisition into a perpetual cash machine. A year after buying CBS Records, Sony set its sights on Hollywood, and in 1989 paid $3.4 billion for Columbia Pictures and TriStar. That price tag seemed bold at the time, but it unlocked franchises that would generate multi-billion-dollar revenues across box office, home video, television, theme parks, and merchandise. Columbia's catalog included golden tickets like Ghostbusters, The Karate Kid, and The Sting. TriStar brought in The Natural and Stand By Me. Over the next 3 decades, Sony unleashed Men in Black, rebooted Jumanji, and launched new sagas like Hotel Transylvania. They built Sony Pictures Animation to craft original hits, and after recognizing anime's growing global community, they snapped up Funimation in 2017. Funimation, which was once an independent US distributor, would become Crunchyroll in 2021, after Sony invested a further $1.18 billion, cementing their control over the world's largest anime platform. Sony's approach was quietly brilliant. Rather than branding every copyright with a flashy Sony logo, they licensed content to whoever paid the best price, such as Netflix, Amazon, Disney+, even legacy broadcast networks. Cruise lines, airlines, and theme parks all paid for the right to screen Sony movies. Every spin-off series, every streaming window, every board game based on a Sony picture funneled revenue back to the parent. Contrast that with a company like Disney, which builds elaborate resorts and lands its movies on its own streaming service. Sony spread its bets, leveraging each asset across dozens of partners. The result? A diversified revenue base that thrived even when market conditions shifted. We want to hear from you. What's your favorite Sony Pictures film? The one you could watch 100 times and never get bored? Drop it in the comments below and let's see which movie gets the most love. Here's where things get wild. In 1998, Sony paid just $7 million for the film rights to one of Marvel's most beloved characters, Spider-Man. By 2002, the Tobey Maguire starring Spider-Man swung into theaters, grossing over $800 million worldwide. Sequels followed, then a reboot, then Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which won an Academy Award for Best Animated Feature in 2019. As superhero universes collided, Sony negotiated cameo and character sharing deals with Marvel Studios, arming Marvel's cinematic universe with New York's web-slinger. while collecting profit participation on Homecoming and Far From Home. Today, Sony still controls the live-action Spider-Man rights, and that exclusivity drives consistent returns. Spider-Man No Way Home pulled in nearly $1.9 billion globally in 2021, and merchandising, toys, apparel, video games had billions more to Sony's coffers. All for a $7 million upfront investment? That's the power of owning a high-value IP and of playing the long game. Compared to Disney's theme park extravaganzas or Netflix's PR blitz, Sony's empire is almost ninja-level stealth. They're not chasing headlines. Sony doesn't stage loud announcements or pepper social media with "look at us now" posts. They let acquisitions close, licensing deals settle, and revenues roll in. Meanwhile, competitors often chase the next big headline: Disney launching a new theme park, Netflix debuting an uber-expensive series, Amazon buying studio space. Sony just buys rights, sits back, and monetizes them across an ever-expanding array of channels. Streaming, theatrical releases, home video, games, live events, merchandise. Their strategy is to touch every revenue stream without relying on any single one. They even built cross-platform synergies, PlayStation games based on Sony Pictures films, music from Sony music artists featured in movie soundtracks, anime series adapted into video games. In 2020, PlayStation Productions was founded to co-produce TV and film projects based on Sony's gaming IP, turning games like Uncharted into feature films. Every division feeds the others, creating an ecosystem that competitors struggle to replicate. As of 2025, Sony owns Crunchyroll, the world's largest anime streamer, pays out billions in music royalties, and remains a top content distributor in film and TV. Sony's quarterly reports break down into three core segments: music, pictures, and interactive entertainment. Sony Music posted over $9 billion in revenue in fiscal year 2024, with streaming accounting for nearly 60% of income. Catalog licensing in ads, films, and games keeps cash flowing, even when new releases ebb. Sony Pictures delivered over $4.5 billion in revenue, buoyed by theatrical releases, streaming licenses, and international distribution. Crunchyroll added another $1 billion plus in anime subscription revenue. The PlayStation division, once solely a hardware business, now integrates software, services, and co-productions. Annual software sales exceed $20 billion, while PlayStation Plus subscriptions and media tie-ins add recurring income. Combined, these segments form a pipeline. Sony creates or acquires an IP, amplifies it through music, film, gaming, and anime, then licenses it globally across partners who pay handsomely for content. No other media company spans so many industries without a consumer-facing brand bombarding you at every turn. This model gives Sony resilience. When box office numbers dip, music royalties cushion the blow. When hardware sales slow, content licensing steps up. And because Sony holds rights long-term, they reap rewards for decades after the initial purchase. Sony's ascent to media dominance didn't come from flashy marketing campaigns or celebrity endorsements. It came from disciplined acquisitions, stealthy negotiations, and a relentless focus on owning valuable IP. From a $2 billion bet on CBS Records to a $7 million gamble on Spider-Man, each move reinforced the last, building an empire that spans music, movies, anime, and gaming. They didn't brag, they just bought smart. And today, when you stream a hit song, binge an anime, or catch the latest superhero blockbuster, there's a high chance Sony is collecting a royalty. Their secret? They don't just make content, they own the pipeline. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Sony's secret empire, like this video, share it with a friend, and subscribe to learn more about the world's most iconic companies. Hit the bell so you're first to know when our next video drops. See you next time.